Steven, it's a real pleasure to speak with you. And
And
this
you.
was this was not your typical role. How was it playing someone short for a change?
Particularly short. Yes, I should explain I'm playing a mouse in case you were wondering just how short I am in this movie. It was fun because I'm very like a mouse in many ways. I do love cheese. People don't like me in their home, and I've recently been making a lot of holes in the house because I'm trying to find a leak. And I don't know where it is. I've drilled about 15 different holes. So my house is covered in small holes now. So I'm exactly I'm exactly like a mouse. Plus, I'm very scared of cats, genuinely very nervous around cats. I just don't know what they're thinking. They always jump on me whenever I'm around. I think they just see me like a giant tree to have some fun with. So yeah, I felt like I could get into the mindset of a mouse.
And these live action blends can sometimes lack chemistry between the real life and CGI characters, but I thought this all came together really well, and I thought the connection really worked. What was the recording process like, and were you surprised at just the chemistry there?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I know what you mean. I think one of the things was that Gil, who's the director and one of the writers, was very encouraging and allowed me to sort of ad lib around. So what I would do is I would watch the scenes that they'd filmed, and then I would sort of interact with Henry, who's playing the character, sort of after the event, But I would try and kind of talk with him in a sort of one-way communication and sort of try and fill in the blanks and sort of, and do you know what I mean? And try and kind of interact with him as organically as I could, rather than just sort of being very rigorous and just reading the scripted lines. And so I'm hoping that sort of that has come over. And I'd done something similar when I did a voice for a video game, which a lot of people really enjoyed. And it was sort of a similar experience there, where the more freedom you're given, I think, in the voiceover booth, the more you can sort of make it feel, hopefully, a bit more connected to the people on screen.
So I assume you're talking about Portal 2.
Right.
So how did those compare? I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, they're very similar in the way because you go into a recording booth and you're very dependent on the director telling you sort of what they need, because you're sort of having to imagine a lot of it for much of it. I mean, particularly in the case of this movie or indeed Portal, a lot of the visual effects haven't been done yet, so they're sort of having to describe them to you. So you have to sort of get yourself in that headspace, of sort of where you're running and what you're scared of, or in the case of Portal, shouting down imaginary gantries on a space station. And so, in fact, they end up being very tiring because you're sort of, you're just there in the booth and you're shouting and you're pretending to run and you're screaming and you're all the different sort of emotions you have to sort of condense into a few hours of recording. So they can actually be quite exhausting and quite sort of labor intensive, but they can be really fun as well.
I love the fantasy setting. It's a really fun, twist on like a traditional Christmas film. Do you have any favorite Christmas films or songs that have always had a special place in your heart?
Well, I love all the great family movies that are set at Christmas, like Die Hard or American Psycho. No, I'm joking. Although I do love those movies, no, I love Christmas films. I love, I thought Elf, which is the last really great Christmas movie that I can remember sort of just falling in love with. And obviously the classics, It's a Wonderful Life. I love The Muppets Christmas Carol, which I just think is fantastic. I did a movie a couple of years ago called Fighting with My Family, which is about wrestlers, and that has a big Christmas scene in the middle of it. And so I'm desperately trying to make that into a Christmas movie. And I don't think anyone's realized yet, but I'm hoping that it will become a sort of perennial Christmas film, because then I get paid every year.
And then my last question, what was the process of just finding the voice for Mika?
Well, do you know, I one of my heroes growing up, comedy heroes, was Bob Hope, and I used to love the old Bob Hope movies that would be on TV. And he was always playing that sort of cowardly, nervous, kind of slightly sort of smart aleck, wise ass character who was always getting himself in scrapes and sort of trying to seem macho but being scared, really. And so I tried to channel a bit of that. And I think what I like is that a lot of younger viewers won't remember Bob Hope, so I can sort of steal his act, and no one will realize.